Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our TGT podcast. We've not done one of these in a while, and I've not done one of these with good old Lee Judges. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you very much. You're all good, Quite turned a bit chilly tonight.
I know. I've
Wow.
literally got in front of me a cup of tea. That's the level of chill that
Yeah,
we're
it's
at right now. So
definitely got cold, hasn't it?
and a coat on. So yeah, it's can't be affording to spend all that money on eating. So
No. Wrap up, put some coats on and hats on,
This is becoming kind of a quarterly type thing. Me and you sitting down to have a chat about Arsenal. And today, I know a lot of people that are subscribers to The Athletic would have woken up to James McNicholas, David Ornstein and Amy Lawrence's article on Stan Kroenke's kind of journey, I suppose, and Josh Kroenke's kind of custodianship of the club. It was very revealing. It was incredibly in depth. I was sharing the piece with Lee, and it's a good 20 odd pages to talk through and go through, and we're going to go through some of the excerpts from it and discuss some of the things that come up in it, and then we're going to have a look ahead, of course, to the Leeds game and might happen in January, and that kind of bleeds on from the whole article about Kroenke. But first of all, Lee, I'd like to know how you spent your international break.
Well, do you know, I'm going to be honest, I don't really enjoy the international football. I don't really watch it.
Yeah.
I did watch a little bit of the when I heard that Saka was playing, but I just normally chill out, normally do other things. But at this moment in time, I've been watching a program on Sky Atlantic. If anybody wants to watch it, called Trackers. I've watched that really good series. So yeah, just been catching up with a bit of TV. Just try to once the Arsenal's on, just try to get away from it all a little bit. I had a bit of a meltdown after the Villa game, like most of us did. So I just feel you need to just chill out from it all, and that's what I do. Yeah, normally, I'd be playing golf or that, but I did enjoy the golf over the weekend and watch that, the Masters. So yeah, just try and chill out. I'm not really into international football. I know a lot of people watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't be watching international football. I'm not. I find it very difficult. I don't know how fellow Arsenal fans do to support a team when there's Spurs players in it. I can't help it. I know people think that I'm bad, and I find it very difficult.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. I know that you're not alone in that whatsoever. I know a lot of people have that same sort of feeling. It's I'm down the opposite. I do get behind that. I do watch them, not regularly, especially not friendlies. I can't stick a friendly. It's just, especially England. England friendlies are the worst games of football. It's just horrific. But I do get up for the Euros and the World Cups and watch.
Yeah,
very interesting.
I still don't go passionately about it. But say like cricket's on or rugby. I'm absolutely passionate, really, want England to do well in every other sport, but football. It's a shame, but that's because of, I think the loyalty towards Arsenal and the hatred of other teams. I think I just, how can you be not hating one team one week and then supporting them? And I just can't do it. You know what I mean?
It's a weird dynamic. It's the same reason you don't play fantasy football as well.
That is the same reason why I don't play fantasy football. Exactly right, as you well know. I don't do it, for the same reason.
Yeah. And Tony tries to get together a league, and you're just like, nah, none of it.
None of it. I can't have it. Can't. If we could have 11 Arsenal players, it's a different thing. But then you ain't going to win.
Yeah, exactly. You can only have 3, so and they never get any points.
No, that's right. So there you go.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Anyway, let's crack on with the meat and gravy of the show and talk about. So in this kind of long read piece on The Athletic, it goes into a lot of detail about Stan Kroenke's custodianship of the club, and I suppose to set the scene, just give me your raw feeling of Kroenke. Let's just talk about how you feel about the guy owning the club right now. What is your raw feeling based on how he took it over, based on recent transfer information that we've got, and obviously Partey being bought, and also, of course, buying out the club as a whole from the shareholders as well?
Do you know what? I'm really 3-4 years ago really hated him. absolutely detesting. You know what I mean? Particularly in the Wenger years, because I felt that he wasn't supporting Arsene Wenger and was letting Arsene Wenger take a lot of flack, unnecessary flack, if I'll be honest. But I think because even though I criticised Wenger towards the end of his career, I always had a fondness for Wenger. Always wanted him to do well. I haven't realistically got that affinity with Emery and Arteta as well. So I focused all my attention probably onto to the Kroenkes and obviously in the end you knew that probably Wenger was at fault, but it was everybody but Wenger at first for me, and then gradually it just didn't go that way. And then of course I did blame Wenger, but I look at it now, I think that Kroenke has spent money, or the club has, when you look at certain players and that have been bought over the last few seasons. The transfer, the one thing I would say about the transfer windows and the Kroenkes, I've never had a transfer window when I've come out of that transfer window thinking that we're going to win the title or challenge for the title. And that's my disappointment at the Kroenkes. That's, I think, again, this month, in the last transfer window, they could have just gone the extra 9 yards just to get the Awar deal over. And who knows, we might be pushing into the top 4 now. And I just feel they just do enough, but not enough. Do you know what I'm saying by that? And that's my take on them. I would like to have somebody in charge of Arsenal that cares like I did it for Arsenal. Now, the Hillwoods and people like that, maybe just as good, just as bad as the Kroenkes at times. Arsenal have been like this through the years, Tom. But you knew that they was there every week and feeling the pain that you was feeling. I don't get that with the Kroenkes now, and I don't think you can just come in and just do that straight away. I think you've got to have the few heartbreaks to enjoy the good times as well. And that is my problem with him. I don't think they care. I don't imagine that every Sunday morning they're getting up early or Saturday afternoon getting up at 5 o'clock, getting the breakfast on, getting ready for it like a lot of the American fans are that we know would be doing or watching the Arsenal. I think
and Canadian fans.
And Canadian fans, you know what I mean? I'd imagine that he goes to bed, doesn't watch it or doesn't get up. What will be, and I think that's the disappointment from me. That's how I feel. Yeah. Whether I want someone else, I've never actually wanted the Kroenkes to come in and go, right, there's 300 million this time, there's another 300 million, like perhaps like other teams have done. But what I want is they're asking the fans to spend a lot of money, Tom. All I've asked is for them to just spend it back like the fans, you know what I mean? And I'm sure the fans are overspending on merchandise and haven't really got the money at the moment because of what's going on, but still spending. And I'd like to see our club doing exactly the same.
Yeah, I think every fan wants obviously to see their club investing and see the owners investing because speaking from my perspective of really being 25 now, going back 15 years, that 15-year period of kind of understanding football from the age of 10 a lot more in depth. The last 10 years, especially more, and the last 5 years, definitely a lot more in depth. And I grew up from like 2005 onwards when that was our last trophy for 9 years. And there was this promise that we would be competing with the Bayern Munichs and the Barcelonas, and obviously we moved to the Emirates, and this was going to be this big transition. And then I don't think the club really kind of gauged the impact of Roman Abramovich and the sheikhs at Manchester City, and then the increase in spending of the likes of Liverpool and Manchester United would have as well. And I think that when you see a lot of sort of clubs around spending so much money and you're not, that obviously will breed a resentment of the ownership. And what was interesting about the Athletic article is that one of the lines in the piece actually says that during the Arsene Wenger period, there was not a single time that Stan Kroenke or KSE, or whatever you want to call it, ever said no to being asked for funds under the Wenger era. So Wenger either, from that statement, never asked for funds, or it just didn't happen. I don't think there is an or. I think it's just a case of Wenger never asked the ownership for funds to back them in transfer. Because if you think, I don't know if you've listened to Arsene Wenger's book or read it yet, but he talks about in his book how he's very, very stringent about money. He's very savvy when it comes to business. That's what he studies economics. And it felt like even if the money was available to come from the Kroenkes, there was never going to be a case of Wenger asking for it. Whereas the difference is now is we've seen under Unai Emery and Arteta with Pepe and Partey in those two different coaches and the signings that were made by those coaches, for both of those situations, the Kroenke family did invest in both of those signings. Apparently, the Pepe deal was decided over a barbecue, if you read through the article, and the Partey deal was basically done. You read it right at the start of the article, where they went on a conference call, and it was decided that they would invest the 50 million euros to trigger the release clause. So, based on that information, do you think, in a way, Arsene Wenger not asking or not requesting an injection of funds to compete and instead want to maintain that self-sustaining model when there was the opportunity to invest? Do you think that arguably is something that maybe the Kroenkes have been, I don't want to say misrepresented, but maybe there's an overreaction or an underestimation of what they were capable of?
Well, that's a, unbelievable statement reading that and you telling me it now. That's hard to believe, Tom. Hard to believe that somebody that's so competitive and a winner would allow that to happen. Like just letting his rivals walk over him, like particularly Mourinho when it was at Chelsea, taking the mickey out of him, and he was just going to allow that to happen. If you could have gone and got the striker or the midfield player that would have stopped that happening, I know that my ego or my determination to be a winner would have said, right, I'm going to them and asking for them, And whether Wenger didn't want to do that because it put pressure on him, I don't know. But look at the pressure this man got and the ridiculous amount of criticism that he got. He's not been able to walk back in the Emirates because of it, And I think that even if that was the case, I think then somebody as a go-between should have gone up to Wenger and said, look, the money's here. We need to spend it, So I'm a little bit. I don't know if I actually believe that.
Let me read you the paragraph because I found it. So it says, the question of whether KSE inhibited Wenger in the market is an interesting one. Wenger has spoken of working under financial restrictions, and he says, I did that sometimes against my own deep desire, he said earlier this year. I did it even though I didn't completely agree with what was going on. I did it even though people inside the club sometimes let that noise come out. Is what the Athletic's been told. However, that at no point during the Wenger reign did the ownership turn down a direct request for funds from the manager. If there was an internal frustration about a lack of signings, it tended to be directed at Wenger rather than the ownership. So that's what it says in the piece. So,
well, listen, that's a great thing then. So why are we I would say like scrimping and saving at the moment. Then why hasn't Arteta gone out there and said, well, we need a war, we need so and so? Because let's face it, Arsenal are in a position at the moment. I think this conversation and this needs to be spoken about next summer when these players are off the books and there's no excuse for we can't do this, fair play, or we've got this and whatever like. But so if this is the case, I expect next summer to be the summer of all transfers as far as Arsenal is concerned, because the owner's going to turn around and say, right there, Mikel, there's a clean sweep. There's 5 or 6 players going out the door. Whatever you want, you can have coming in. Let's see if they do it, Tom. If they do it, then you can look back at this article and we can look back today and go, do you know what? It was right. But at this moment in time, I'm sorry, I've got doubts because Wenger has gone. And I still see Arsenal scrimping and saving in the transfer market, not getting things done. I will say this, they have got some good deals done over the last couple of seasons. I think that they really have. I think that, to bring in Thomas Partey was very, very good. But why didn't they do that at the beginning of the window? Why have they had to have a meeting, on a Zoom call while they're watching the New York Giants for that to happen? Why that should have been done weeks and months ago. And if there was an indiscrepancy of a £2-3 million bid for a while, Why haven't they stepped in and said, look, we know you need him, Mikel, so you're going to get him. That, to me, doesn't all make sense as far as I'm concerned. But
I think,
you know, it's hard to when you read that. You know what I mean? It's hard to believe, isn't it? Because if that is the case, what was Arsene Wenger doing all this time? What the hell was he doing? You know what I mean? Like, because I'm not saying that we had to spend millions and millions of pounds, but we just needed one stage there. Wenger was 2 players at January time. I think 2 players away from really giving it a real good go, and you know, still being in the job now. So if we'd have got those couple of players in that season that Leicester won the league, and we would have won on and won the league, you know what I mean? Wenger would still be here now. So it baffles me why he wouldn't have done that. Baffles me.
Joseph Maseko says in the chat, Wenger's economical takes are a bit iffy and the dude backs financial fair play. And I think that's a possible explanation, is that during that period, in sort of 2010 to 2015, that period is where FFP started to become a real idea, and Wenger was very much behind that. And maybe there's the possibility that he thought, well, all these clubs are spending huge amounts of money, eventually they're going to get their comeuppance, and it never came. And he took that risk. And
I think that's a great point, Tom. I think it's, you know, I mean, maybe he had such an ego that, you know, that he felt that, you know, let's face it, you know, when he took on the power of Manchester United and beat them. You know what I mean? With all the money that Man United had the pick of who they wanted because of whatever, and he took them on and he beat them. Simple as that. He got under Ferguson's skin, and on more than one occasion we got the better of them. But also they got the better of us. But maybe he felt that I'll show you I can do it without the funds and go down that route. But as an intelligent man as he is, you know, it was always going to be tougher doing it in the Premier League with the likes of Chelsea and Manchester City coming to the fray. I'm sure that fair play and everything would have been in the same position. He would have done really well if it weren't for those 2 games. But as you quite rightly said earlier on in the programme, that Chelsea and Manchester City turned the whole thing upside down with what they'd done. They did, you know. Yeah. Let's be honest, I've been watching football for a very, very long time, a lot longer than you. Manchester City have never won nothing. The best they got to was the 1981 FA Cup final when they unfortunately lost to Spurs. They've never been involved in a final ever since. All of a sudden,
gone down to Division 1. They've
not been a force. They've been Manchester City's, Man United's like whipping boys, and all of a sudden, the Sheik's money comes in, the oil money comes in, and look where they are now. And it's the same with Chelsea. Chelsea were always a little bit of a cup side and all that, but never ever challenging for the title. They was in the Division 2. I remember them coming up in Division 1 when they, you know, it was a massive. Our first game at Highbury was like packed out, but they was never a team that was ever going to challenge for the title. They was always up there and thereabouts. As soon as the Abramovich money come in, look what they've done. So these 2 teams coming in, Wenger surely must have seen that. And not only that, they got the best players. These 2 teams, the reason that they're there, they've got the best players and they've got the best managers. And, you know, Mourinho with the 10 years ago is a different Mourinho now. And also he had all the powerful players and, you know, come on, and Wenger just was allowing that to happen. You know, Tom, your 1000th game for managerial time, you know, you go to Chelsea and you get stuffed 6-0. You're not going to go there asking for money after that, because he was humiliated that day, absolutely humiliated. I felt so sorry for him that day, and you know, I felt the players let him down. But I think at the end of the day, if he wasn't going in there and getting the players that he wanted, perhaps the players felt let down themselves because they're being promised things that they're not going to get, Tom, you know. So I think it's poor if that is the case. Poor from Wenger, very poor.
The Arsenal, let me just see if I can find. Eric says, Tom and Lee, the move from Highbury to the Emirates put huge pressure on the transfers. That was a period where we spent very little or nothing at all. And would the owners have backed him during that period? And that kind of bleeds onto the next point, in that the article also alludes to the fact that before they had full ownership, which only happened a few years back, when they bought out all the shareholders, Alisher Usmanov sold his 30-something% after he tried to buy it from Stan Kroenke. If we all remember like the £1 billion bid that went in from Alisher Usmanov that was turned back, and it has felt like, in fairness, and we have seen over the last 2 seasons in Partey and in Pepe, that the ownership has put an injection of funds into the club, and that's happened after they've taken full 100% of the club. So could it be that, yes, the move from Highbury to the Emirates did put financial pressure on transfers, but could it possibly be that the reason also why we didn't see backing, or we didn't see the earlier point was that the Wenger never asked, that they never refused a request of funds. But a lot of fans would say that it shouldn't need to be requested. It should be put in. They should go at the start of the season when they have their meeting about what's going to happen this summer, what we're going to do in this window. We're going to provide you with X, Y, and Z, and you X, Y, and Z that you want to help the team. But it was a case of, in the article, that they said they never refused a request for funds. But now it appears that the club, with Edu and with Vinay and with these other guys that are involved in recruitment, and Arteta being involved with it, and previously Sven Mislintat and Raul Sanyehi, that these guys are being more proactive. They are going to the ownership and they are saying, we want to sign this player. This is how much we need. Can we sanction this deal? Now, that's great. What I would say is, then Christopher Fung in the chat box brought up a really good point, in that we have spent money, but we spend it quite poorly. And it's just a common misconception that we don't necessarily spend. And Arsenal have spent a lot of money. If you think about how much we bought Mustafi for, how much we bought Xhaka for, how much we've spent on Willian's signing on fee, David Luiz's signing on fee. David Luiz's first season amounted to nearly £24 million, which is an incredible amount of money. We then spent money on Cedric's contract. We've bought players that necessarily have then not really done anything, and then we've sold them for nothing. You think about Lucas Perez, for instance, who we bought for 17 million, was then sold for nothing. And there's just other players that, I mean, I can't imagine Arsenal will get too much for Callum Chambers at one point that we decide to move him on, because I don't see a long-term future, to be honest, for him at the club, other than a bit part role. Because you look at what they want to do with Saliba, they bring in Gabriel, and you don't really see a position for Chambers. So that's another player that's been spent a lot on. Lacazette cost £50 million, and arguably hasn't repaid that money. And then you look at Pepe's deal, with £72 million has gone on the Ivorian, and is yet to really kind of give any sort of sense that he is worth that amount. Now, the issues are now that the owners have seen money that they have spent on the club arguably been wasted on Pepe. However, hopefully they will be encouraged by the likes of Kieran Tierney, by the likes of Gabriel, by the likes of Partey, these signings that are doing something. But it is interesting, I find, Lee, that they are starting to actually proactively inject money into the club after they took 100% control of things.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point, and they have, and I can't agree more with what the comment was. We have wasted loads of money, as you just mentioned. It's been ridiculous. It's been mismanaged by whoever bought these, but which is obviously Wenger. And then when you look at this, let's take Callum Chambers. When he first got into the side at Arsenal, he was sensational, playing really, really well. Mertesacker was coming back from the World Cup. As soon as he was fit, out went Chambers, and straight away that was the wrong sort of thing. We've got someone there young. I think that we are looking again to do things properly. We bought Gabriel this season, fantastic buy. Martinelli, what a buy that is! Come on. So there's been some great moves. But I look at it and I think to myself, right, let's have a look at the Saliba one. 24 million, is it 28 million? I think something like that over the course of it all. There, we've got 28 million pound we're spending on someone that we don't really know who he's going to be, what he's going to be. Certainly, we're not dealing with that right. We could have gone an extra 10 million and maybe got up a Makana or somebody like that, somebody of that ilk that could have come in now. And as much as I like to see us promoting young players coming through and all that, it's great. But if you're not going to play them, what's 28 million pound wasted if you're not going to play Saliba at some stage? And then they're looking to do it again with another young player from where is he playing? The young.
What position?
Central defender. It's just that they're talking about Ricky.
Oh, Rekic. Yeah.
Rekic.
Omar Rekic. Hertha Berlin.
Yeah. That's him. Yeah. So they're thinking of bringing in another one. You're thinking, hold on a minute. You're messing up on one, and you're going to go and do it again. Then you're going to loan him back. And I get what they're trying to do, but at the end of the day, you've also got to be looking for now as well. And I think that the central defender's position on that right-hand side is becoming a problem for us, because we've got Gabriel showing what we can do on the left-hand side. If we had somebody like that can do that on the right, we'd be laughing with our defence, Now, obviously, the Mari one hasn't helped with him getting injured, got same old stuff. We get injuries. We can't foresee that. But in saying that, Tom, we could have foreseen that in the transfer window when we decided to buy him. So if you look at it, for a two central defenders that we bought in Mari and Saliba, you're probably looking at about £45 million. Not hardly played. We could have gone and got the real deal for 45, 46 million, So I do think recruitment is something that's gone wrong there. But if you're on the ball or on the pulse, as they say, wouldn't you be? And I was Kroenke. I was saying, well, this is not right. Keep getting this wrong. Get somebody in there that's going to get these deals right. You can't keep getting these deals wrong. Now, even the great Alex Ferguson and other teams, as Liverpool are as well, there's always one or two that you mess up on. That's part and parcel of football. It's not always going to work out what signings you're going to get and whatever. There's always a mistake in there, because it's football. But continually making the same mistakes, I'm not having it, Tom. And we're making too many of these mistakes, which is costing us in the long run. As you say, look at like the forward situations. You know what I mean? £17 million for a player that we give away for nothing. You know what I mean? 2 years later, I'm not being horrible. You're costing yourselves millions and millions of pounds. Oh, that's all right. Go and do it again. I think in any other industry they'd be going, take your computer and see you later. Like, you know what I mean? So, and after one game, you knew that Perez wasn't going to be good enough for Arsenal. I knew that, So they'll give him time. So it's the recruitment's got to pick its ideas up, Tom. It really has.
I think what might be a good idea to actually show the recruitment side of things, what we can do is if we go on, let me just throw it up on the screen so you can see it. So this is transfermarket.com, which I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with, and it's showing you all of the transfers that Arsenal have done. Now, this is going from the year 2014-15, so this is what we should probably do is go from 13-14 when Mesut Ozil, the first major signing. What we can do is we can go down some of these figures and then we can tally up based on hits or miss how much Arsenal have spent well and how much Arsenal have wasted. So I'm going to leave the judgment up to you, Lee. So I'm going to read you the player and the cost, and then you're going to tell me if you think their signing was a hit or if you think it was a miss. So if we start with Mesut Ozil, hit or miss? It's a tough one to start with, to be fair.
I think a hit, because we've won trophies under his regime, and I think up until his contract extension, he was a hit. After that, a miss. But I'm going to say a hit.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough. What we'll do, obviously, we can't do them all because it will take forever, but we'll do kind of the bigger fees that we've spent. Alexis Sanchez.
Well, definitely a hit as far as playing. I think there's no two ways about that. But the selling value was a miss. Again, that was a mistake. You don't let somebody like that go down to a year's contract and leave. You know what I mean? But for the 3 years, the 3 out of 4 years that he was here, absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding player. Definitely a hit for me.
Definitely a hit. Chambers.
Unfortunately, a miss.
Yeah, 18. Danny Welbeck.
Miss.
Yeah. Gabriel.
Hit.
Yeah. I liked him. I'd argue we just didn't really use him very well.
Well, I think he was better. He was better than what we had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the greatest of defenders, but I tell you what, he had a little bit about it. He was sort of like the Jules Gramondi of his time, someone that would come in and do an half decent job for us. And I felt that we got rid of him, all right, for good money, I think, at the end of the day. So it was a good deal, when we got rid of him. But I thought he was the best of a bad bunch. I'm going to be honest, like, you know.
Yeah. Who have we got next? Matthew Debussy.
Unfortunately, you know, injuries, and I think you can get that you know, Welbeck you would say because of injuries as well, but unfortunately injuries are part and Debussy because of injuries. I thought was going to be a good buy for us. I quite liked him, but
Ospina
injuries
is next.
Ospina. I think for what he done okay. Yeah, so he was a hit.
I'm going to go for a hit. Yeah, I agree with that. Petr Cech.
Move on.
I was going to say I'd put him down as a miss. A genuinely. I
100,
don't think he had the desired impact.
100%.
El Neni.
Hit. 5 million, £4 million. I think it's been a massive.
11. It's apparently 11 million according to this. I think that's what it rose to based on appearance bonuses.
Still a hit. Still a hit. Yeah.
Still go for a hit. That's interesting. I'd go for a miss personally, just because of. I put it down as a hit because we're doing your list, but I would have said a miss up until this season. Which is weird because when he came in, he was just kind of passive. I don't feel like he really achieved anything, and that's why he ended up going out on loan. But he might now become a hit based upon what he's doing.
And if it don't, I think we're selling for a bit as well. Like, you know what I mean?
For sure, 100%. He's 28 now, so like he's playing and he's. Granit Xhaka, £40 million. Granit Xhaka. See, I lean towards miss, and people in the chat box know how much I back him. But based on a £40 million signing return that we've got,
it's got to be a miss. For 40 million, I expected better than what we've got.
Yeah.
If I'll be honest.
I mean, that's 2 million. That's more than Alexis Sanchez cost. So this. Skodra Mustafi.
Miss.
Lucas Perez. Oh, what about this one?
Miss. 100% miss.
Takuma Asano.
Yeah, another miss.
Another miss. That's 3.6 million. Rob Holding. 2.7 million.
2 point. Well, you got to say that's been that's a hit, I know, like that's a hit. You know what I mean? Because we're selling for free. You know what I mean? So
Aubameyang.
Oh, without a doubt, a hit. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, Lacazette's an interesting one.
Do you know what? Again, I'm going to say for 50 million, it's a miss.
Yeah, and I'd go down that route because he didn't improve on Olivier Giroud for me. He didn't take us to that next level in a striking role.
No, I think he's done okay, but for 50 million, again, you'd expect more. Yeah, so sadly a miss,
47 million miss. Now, this is interesting because Mkhitaryan, we bought for 30 million because we sold Alexis Sanchez for the same price. But, I mean, arguably, Alexis Sanchez, had we have sold him to City the season before, we could have got a lot of money for him. And in that final season for us, he didn't cut it in that last 6 months.
Yeah.
He just wasn't the same player because he didn't want to be here. So I'm actually going to say to you, because Mkhitaryan is what it cost in the end, that we're going to put that figure down. So 30 million, Mkhitaryan, hit or miss?
Oh, definite miss.
Definite miss. Mavropanos. We don't really know yet.
We don't really know. Like, you know, I mean, jury out on that one. Jury out on that one.
Lucas Torreira. This is an interesting one.
He's got to be a miss, isn't he? He's got to be a miss. You know what I mean? Like,
he's out on loan.
This season he looked all right, but for whatever reason, again, you know what I mean? We couldn't even sell him this season, so definite miss. You know, unfortunately, just hasn't worked out.
No. Leno. Sorry.
Hit.
Socrates.
Miss. Like going to tennis, isn't it?
I know. Guendouzi.
I
mean, where is he now?
Yeah, you've got to say he's on loan, so you'd have to say it's a miss, isn't you? Like, you know what I mean? So.
Yep. Now I'm reluctant to do the last 2 seasons because that has been when we've obviously began to see the injection of money. So maybe we'll draw a line under it and then we'll go forward from there. So if I just add this up, so we got a ridiculous amount. While I'm adding it up, because it might take me a little bit. I did do A-level maths, but there's a lot of numbers here. If you just think about kind of the reflection on going through those, what's your kind of reaction to seeing how many times we said miss and kind of thinking about how long a lot of people turn around and said that Arsenal don't spend money? But we've gone through a lot there. And Arsenal have spent money, but it's just been spent poorly, hasn't it?
It's been spent poorly, but what's the common denominator with that? How many players have actually we know were and done the business by. You know, but what I say that you actually knew about. Did you know about Granit Xhaka before he come on the scene? I didn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Really. No.
I'd known about Sanchez. I'd known about Ozil. I'd never heard of Socrates, really. You know, if I be honest, going on. You know, Gabriel, I'd not heard much about. Guendouzi, nothing about him there. Debussy, I did, but obviously he got injured. A lot of those players on there are players that weren't untried or you know, you certainly, when you look, how can I say it? Everybody knows about Thomas Partey. Everybody knows about him. Why do they all know about him? Because he's been doing the business in the top league for so many years. So it's a great thing. You know, people go on about Nicolas Pepe, you know what I mean? He come on the scene a year ago, Tom, in the French league. You know, they're talking about the mate that I'm not going to pronounce his name, that you love at the moment. You know, all of a sudden, people are saying, oh, it's a great buy, it's going to be this and going to be that. It's a gamble.
It is a gamble, yeah.
Simple as that. You know what I mean? You're paying £20 million for him or whatever. It's still a gamble. He's not tried and tested. Now, you can turn around and say that the tried and tested sometimes don't work, you know, i.e. Mkhitaryan, if you want to be tried and tested in the Premier League, didn't do the business. You know, for me, you would look at people like Zaha and Grealish. You'd have to pay big money for them. But the one guarantee you are is that you know that they've Premiership proven. Now, whether they come into Arsenal and would do that, well, that's down to the coach then and down to certain other things, because you as an owner, you could turn around, or the recruitment person, I could turn around and go, hold on a minute, he's been doing the business in the Premiership for 3 years. How comes he's not doing it now for you? There's a little bit more of a line, you know, there's no grey area. At the moment, there's too much grey area with certain players, you know, and that's what I take from that, you know. And with transfers, they're all a gamble, but we're sort of like, listen, I think we're probably going down the route of Arsene Wenger did 10, 15 years ago, you know, and it's not there. It's not like that no more, you know. Let's face it, when he brought in players there, it was unbelievable. Patrick Vieira, I know, like people say, well, I ain't heard of so-and-so. Well, no one really knew what Patrick Vieira would do. Yeah. But he come in, you know, in our AC Milan's reserves, you know, and you know, they must be kicking themselves to this day about that. But you know, their misfortune was our gain. And sometimes you look at players like Robert Perez. It took a little bit of time for him to come through, but they had pedigree. They had pedigree. Yeah. I don't see these players that we're picking out now with too much pedigree.
No, I 100% agree with you. And you look at the great Arsenal sides, and they are peppered with players that there are some from abroad, if you think about the early 2000s Wenger era. But before that, and I understand that buying from abroad wasn't too common the further you go back, but still, the importance within most title-winning sides is quality that came from the Premier League. You look at Liverpool and the amount of Premier League proven talent in Sadio Mane and Jordan Henderson, in Virgil van Dijk. You look at Manchester City with the likes of Kyle Walker that they've brought in. You look at the other players that have been brought through every single season. There's a champion that has players from throughout the Premier League. And Arsenal, from tallying it up, £274 million were misses. And I understand that the likes of Manchester City have spent £1 billion, but none of that 274 has been spent on a Premier League proven player. Petr Cech was a secondary keeper by this point, Courtois. Chambers, of course, came in as a very young player that we didn't know too much about, and we spent a significant fee of around 16 million to 18 million.
Yeah, 16 million at the time,
and we could have signed plenty of other players that were out there. Sadio Mane came in from Southampton for just over 30 million, between 30 and 40 million pounds, I think it was. And you look at other teams that have signed players that people have scoffed at times. And I get that some teams have taken risks. And annoyingly, you look at those lot down the road, they grew and they developed by signing some of the best players from other teams, like Moussa Dembele from Fulham, Clint Dempsey from Fulham. And they kept on signing like these Gylfi Sigurdsson when he was at Swansea. Like, they signed players from other Premier League teams and they gradually got better and better because they were signing the teams below them, they're better players. So when we could have got Zaha, we didn't. We went and got Pepe. And it's stuff like that that really gets me. We could have signed Decore a while ago, and that didn't happen. And we've just been linked with these players, and it never really comes of it. And instead, we decide to go into Europe, and then we take a risk, and so we get someone in like Lacazette to replace Giroud. And it just doesn't work. And then we sell Giroud to a rival, and he goes and scores against us in the Europa League final.
Yeah,
so
you couldn't make it up, could you? You couldn't make it up.
It is unbelievable. And in terms of the other side of things, so £274 million we surmised has been on misses between 2014 and 2018, and then hits 189 million. So you're just under 100 million in difference. And I think that, and if we're honest, the big bulk of that has been made up of, one, you said Mesut Ozil at the start. The other one that was a big hit was Alexis Sanchez, and then Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So if you think about that 189 million, most of that is made up by 3 key players. And if you look at those key players, Mesut Ozil was a brilliant player at Real Madrid. Like, you can have your opinion on Mesut Ozil now, but when he was at Real Madrid, he was brilliant. Alexis Sanchez had an amazing season at Barcelona before he left and signed for us. And Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was a world-class forward when we signed him. And all the other ones in there have been small, 2.7 million, 3.6 million, 13 million, like little signings that have gone on to do big things. And then if you look on the Sorry, go on, Lee.
No, it's just great. Like, someone's made a point there about Danny Welbeck being Premier proven. He was Premiership proven, but he wasn't a regular in Man United. Well,
he was a squad player.
We were a squad player. We plucked
just proven to be average.
Which is a great point. It is a great point. But at the end of the day, he was a squad player at Man United, and you're taking, a prime Sanchez from Barcelona. You know what I mean? That needed a change.
Yeah.
And I see players. That Man United, because you're at Man United doesn't mean to say that you're going to be good at Arsenal, because they may see it as a step down, or it's not quite it's not worked out at Man United. Same for Man United, Arsenal players going to Man United. A few of them haven't worked out recently. You know what I mean? If I'll be honest, even the Van Persie one, and they had one great year out of him, and that was the end of it for him. He wasn't like, he'd never go down. The Man United supporters that I speak to, he certainly wouldn't go down as a legend at Man United. But so I think that you've got to, if you was in recruitment there, so I'm interviewing you for the job, you're going to come and take over at my football club. Let's have a look at your transfer dealings. Oh, well, I've lost about £100 million worth of talent up from my man. You ain't going to get a job, Tom. No. Let's be honest. You cannot keep making those mistakes. 1 or 2 you can go with, but as you said there, the 3 main signings there that we've talked about are all proven top footballers. Mesut Ozil. Let's forget about what we're talking about.
He won us a trophy in the first season.
When he first came to the club, it was a big boost. It was a boost that Arsenal needed. And then the following season, Sanchez come. And by the way, if we'd have been managed properly, then we could have done some damage to some teams. But we wasn't managed properly, and we also wasn't backed properly, and that was the problem. We've gone far. We've declined since then. I can tell you, like tenfold. When you look at the midfields and all that. We bought Aaron Ramsey for £5 million, Tom, you know what I mean, as a kid. And we let him go for nothing. We developed him into a top player for whatever, again, another one messed up by injuries. But gone for nothing. Wiltshire, great player. Unfortunately, injuries. So, you can make excuses somewhere down the line that there had been a few injuries and all that. Like Diaby was a great sign. Would have been a fantastic signing for Arsenal. But you have to have that little bit of luck. But, as you're seeing there, that the more you gamble, the more chances you've got to losing it. And unfortunately, Arsenal in that position where they're gambling. For a big club, Tom, gambling too much, if I'll be honest. We should be getting established players in. Last season, we should have gone and got Grealish. Should have gone and got him. The cost of 67 million. If he'd have had the season that, say if he'd have come into the Arsenal team and played like he is now, right, all of a sudden, 70 million, he's worth 90 million now. They're talking all of a sudden, but not only that, we've got a player that's ripping up the Premier League. These are things that we've, we're worrying about the financial gain. You know what I mean? Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but someone along the line should have said, listen, You talk about them down the road. They had a chance of signing for 20 odd million and they choked on it. You know what I mean? Whoever done that now should be sacked. You know what I mean? Because that's a horrendous mistake that they've made not getting Grealish when they should have done. You know what I mean? So these are things that have been there, you know, and looked at that. You know, I think sometimes along that, why haven't we looked at Norwich for a couple of their players instead of
Cantwell,
going? Yeah, instead of going to foreign shores with under unknowns. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And I know how much you love this the boy from Hungary, and I think he's a very, very good player. Like, you know what I mean? Very, very good player. But it is still ultimately a gamble in January if we're going to do it. Listen, Fernandes was a gamble for Man United, you know, and look what it done to him. He could be the signing that we get that would turn around and make us that little bit, put a little bit of sprinkle dust that we need. Something needs to be done at Arsenal to just give us a little bit of a sprinkle, and he could be the one. Who knows?
Yeah. What I'll say is that there is a clear error that's going on throughout the recruitment setup.
And it's under the Kroenke's watch.
Of course, it is. And that is something that does go against them, is that they should have recognised earlier that we were making these recruitment areas and done something about it. It's taken too long. We have now got someone in Edu who hopefully can recognise where we're making mistakes and where we need to go forward. The annoying thing is that we still haven't gone out and bought someone Premier League proven, that we haven't got anything to measure that against. That we don't know if that would have been successful because we've not done it in so long. Like, if you think, who was the last? I mean, chat box, tell me who for us was genuinely the last Premier League proven player that we signed? Because the one that come into my head is Sol Campbell. That's the last one that I can think of that really came in and made a big impact. I'm really trying to wrap my brains for someone that came in at any point from another Premier League side, and I can't think of anyone else. And that's frustrating. But my point was going to be I completely take your point about Bruno Fernandes. The difference with him is that he was the best player in Portugal before he left at Sporting. Szoboszlai is the best player in Austria currently. Whereas Arsenal go out and spend big money on Shkodran Mustafi, who was an average player in Spain. They went out and signed Granit Xhaka, who was far from the best midfielder, but had a lot of potential in Germany, when they could have gone out and signed someone for the similar money that would have had an immediate impact and still had longevity, because you need to make sure that you're not buying players that are always 27, 28, 29. Kante is a fantastic example that we could have actually signed him from Cannes before Leicester got him. We didn't. Wenger knew about him. We know what he's like. But supposedly he did. But we could have got him from Leicester and didn't. We went and got Xhaka. We spent so much more than we could have done getting Kante.
And the other thing, so I'm just sort of, I remember Mahrez saying that the deal to Arsenal was all but done. But somewhere along the line, it didn't happen.
So, and that's another one. And I can see people in the chat box saying Czech and William, but they're not players. They're not what I'm talking about. They're not. They are Premier League players, but they're not players that are amazing at their clubs. They're not the best thing. Willian and Czech was not the best thing about Chelsea when we got them. David Luiz was not the best thing about Chelsea. Like, if you think about, and again, you mentioned hindsight, but I think it's important to also point a finger at ourselves sometimes, because we as fans can be a little bit snooty. We can turn our nose up at certain prospects. Johnny Evans is the example that I always bring up. A lot of people turn their nose up at 10 million quid Johnny Evans. A lot of people now look at him. He's been great for Leicester when we could have signed him for 10 million. He could have really changed our fortunes at the back, and instead we carried on with Mustafi. And that's really strange and annoying that a lot of fans can turn around and say, oh, we've not spent, oh, we're not recruiting properly. But we are turning our nose up. Like Danny Ings, for instance. You look at Danny Ings, I bet any money he would have finished pretty much all the chances that Lacazette has missed this season because of the form that he's on.
And we've got him for half the price.
And obviously it's very easy for me to say that, and I understand it's very easy for me to say that now. But had I suggested we go out and sign Danny Ings from Liverpool when he wasn't, and it was a young guy, it wouldn't have cost very much, and he could have come in. But again, it's more about us signing players like after a season at Southampton where he smashes it, then you go out and pick them up. After 2 seasons at another lesser Premier League side, go and pick up their best player, because otherwise other teams are just going to go and take them, and they're going to succeed with it.
Absolutely spot on, you know what I mean? Like now you look at Man United in the day. They went and picked the best player from Tottenham on more than one occasion, whether it be Berbatov, Carrick, and they went and done it. You know what I mean? Like, they went to Leeds and took Les Ferdinand. They went and took Rio Ferdinand. They've done it on many occasions. We can't even take the best players from Crystal Palace, or like Zaha, the best player from Crystal Palace. Bosh, go and get him. It's better than getting the best player from Lille, or the best player from Lyon, or whatever. Go and get Grealish from Aston Villa, their best player.
Yeah.
Make a statement of intent. You know what I mean? Like Liverpool went and got the best player from Southampton. They recruited Chamberlain from us. You know what I mean? Like, not one of our better players, but potentially could have been another one from injuries. And pick these players off. But we don't seem to do that.
No.
We go to Chelsea and pick up their hand-me-downs, if you like.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
it is that. It is that, isn't it? Let's not beat around the bush. That is what it is.
Yeah. Without being nasty, I don't want to be. You know what I mean? Petr Cech. We was going mad. Oh, we've got Petr Cech and all that. Yeah, but we should have had Petr Cech 5 years ago. That would have been great. If we had William 5 years ago, fantastic. The reason that we got these is because they're surplus to requirements at Chelsea. Let's be honest. You ain't gonna. You ain't gonna go and get. I don't know. Chelsea's best player, like Mason Mount, just for instance, and just say we'll give you Mason Mount for 10 million like that. Oh no, they might give you what's the boy that's just gone to Crystal Palace?
Batshuayi?
No, the midfield player, English player. Oh god, tall player.
I don't know. Who is this? Who's gone from Chelsea?
What's that in the chat? He's gone.
Not Loftus-Cheek, you're on about.
Loftus-Cheek, yeah. It's Loftus-Cheek.
Yeah.
Has he gone Fulham? Was it Fulham he's gone to? Oh, sorry. So he's gone Fulham.
Right.
So he's gone Fulham. They might turn around and say you can have Loftus-Cheek because he's not required at Chelsea no more. You know what I mean? Like the next thing, we might be linked with Jones at Man United. You know what I mean? Like in the next week or so. Do you know what I mean? But when Jones 5-6 years ago was a well sought after player, which we never got. Phil Jones might have been worked out at Arsenal, who knows, you know what I mean? But there's the sort of thing that you talk about the Wenger era and they're not financing a deal. Well, they could have financed a deal to get Cahill to Arsenal when they did. So I'm a bit reluctant on that, you know what I mean? If we'd have got Cahill when we should have done, instead of getting Per Mertesacker. Do you remember that? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We scrimped and saved, and in the end we went and got Per. You know what I mean? Come on, who was the better player at the time? English proven central defender.
Just wasted money. It's just
wasted money. Like, you know what I mean?
Anyway, we didn't get to discuss Leeds or the January window really.
No,
but, we had a blooming good show. We had a runny good moan.
Yeah.
And we'll have to make this more of a regular occasion when
I enjoyed that. It was a great chat, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
100%.
And honestly, like you could go on for another 5 hours talking about it because it is an intriguing conversation. I don't think there's no right, no wrong. I think if you're good, there are people out there that think the Kroenkes are doing all right, and I get that, and people that are not, Tom, and I get that as well. I just want to see us. I want to see under Kroenkes a transfer window where I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing that I think that Arsenal can go on and win the league. Once they do that, I'm all for them.
100%. Cheers, Lee. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you for the last 55 minutes or so. Please tell people where they can find you. I mean, I know they already have found you, but just tell them.
Yeah, Lee Mark Judges on Instagram or on Twitter, which is becoming the new Instagram. With all I've seen over the last couple of days, you can put your stories on Instagram
now. We've got
Fleet. Is that what they call it? Wow,
Fleets,
it's unreal, isn't it? Like, I've not done one yet, but I'm more. I've been using Instagram quite a lot now because it just seems a friendlier place, if I'll be honest. You know what I mean? So, and you don't get into no arguments. People just like your pictures or they don't. You know what I mean? And if they don't, they don't. So, but
if they don't,
Twitter's still a minefield out there. It's still a minefield.
You gotta avoid it. Right, it's been a pleasure, mate. I will speak to you very soon, and I will speak to you in chat box tomorrow, which is I was about to say it's a very special day, which isn't very humble, but it is my birthday. So
is it tomorrow?
It is tomorrow. I'm still going to do a show.
We can't do much more. We can't
do anything else. Exactly.
What is it going to be like? That's a lockdown birthday. Lockdown birthday. You know what I mean?
I'll update you as to how it goes.
Let me know. I'll be interested. And lockdown birthday on a Saturday night as well.
I know.
Oh,
Unbelievable. I took 2 days off in preparation from work, and it's just unbelievable things. Right, we'll see you again very, very soon. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow for the big day, and other than that, it's been a pleasure. And as always, up the Arsenal.